All right, so here I am with my voice and my face showing. I hope you're glad now. No more typing. Anyway, so I've been playing around with the formula that predicts the velocity outcomes of cart 1 and cart 2 after collision in an elastic collision. This same kind of formula that Professor Loon has been writing on his blackboard. Which is this one over here. And so V1 is the cart 1 bouncing back after a collision. Now we are not really interested in that. We're mostly interested in the second cart being pushed forwards, which is V2. And this is the formula: 2 times mass 1 divided by mass 1 plus mass 2 times U1, which is the initial velocity, plus m2 minus m1 divided by m1 plus m2 times the second velocity, but that's only if the second cart is also moving before collision. And what we are talking about is a situation where cart 2 is standing still and cart 1 is colliding into it. So the velocity of this one would be 0. So if you times it times 0, this whole thing becomes 0. So we can just skip this. We can cancel it. We only need this part. So this part here, that's the most important one. So now I was wondering, Draftscience, if you also have a formula like this, because I mean, I've been watching many of your live streams and your videos in the last in the last year, but I didn't really notice you writing an actual formula like mainstream science has a formula to predict the outcomes of the velocities after collision. So I was just I was looking to find a formula for you, and maybe you already did this, but nevertheless, so based on the assumption that after collision, let's say a 1 to 2 ratio, for example here, 3 kilograms colliding into 6 kilograms, the initial velocity is 4 meters per second. After the collision, cart 2 will come out with half the speed at best, which is 2 meters per second. Now, what formula would that be to give this prediction? Also, what would be the prediction if we have other masses? Let's say a 2.6 kilograms versus a 3.4 kilograms, like totally other numbers, other masses. What would the outcome be? What would be your prediction? What kind of formula would predict that? So I came up with this one, and I'm just wondering, am I correct? 2 times mass 1 divided by mass 2 times the initial velocity divided by 2. For example, if we have a 0.50, so 500 gram colliding into a 0.25 kilogram, that would be the opposite of a 1 to 2 ratio. Now we have a 2 to 1 ratio. So instead of half the speed at best, now it would be double the speed at best. So let's say it's the initial velocity is 20 meters per second. The half the mass weight would come out with a double the speed, 40 meters per second. So if we take this formula, 2 times mass 1, which is 1 kilogram, divided by mass 2, which is 0.25 kilogram, times the initial velocity, 20, divided by 2, so which is 10. Do the math, and it will equal 40 meters per second. And if we take these numbers here, 3 kilogram into a 6 kilogram, initial velocity is 4 meters per second. 2 times mass 1, which is going to be 6 kilograms divided by mass 2. 6 divided by 6 equals 1 times the initial velocity divided by 2. So 1 times 2 equals the outcome of 2 meters per second. That's correct. That's in line with your prediction. So I'm wondering, is this the correct formula for every possible prediction, for every possible ratio? Just a question. Is this your formula to predict every possible outcome for every possible ratios? All right, so that's going to be the video